Hi, thank you for joining us for the Miles Franklin Precious Metals Question and Answer Wrap session, Diversification Strategies. My name is Laura Heck, and I'll be your moderator for today. To start with, I'd like to introduce you to Andy Hoffman, the Director of Marketing here at Miles Franklin.
Well, thank you, Laura, and welcome to all the attendees to this webinar. We're almost full as we speak. We have a maximum, and so I'm glad you all made it on in time. Today, the webinar will be, as in the past two webinars, myself, the Director of Marketing, and Andy Schectman, our President. Andy's actually en route traveling today, so I'm going to guide him through the minimal slides we speak through in the beginning, and then we're going to have questions come in, as you know, people on the line that you can type in real time. Laura will then go over them one at a time, and Andy and I will answer them depending on what the question is. So with that, I am going to, well, here's our disclaimer, and now I'm going to send it to Andy, who's going to discuss briefly Miles Franklin.
Thank you, Laura. Thank you, Andy. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm in the middle of Missouri somewhere. I'm really not even quite sure where I am. But with that being said, let's hope you don't lose reception. A little bit about Miles Franklin. People often ask where the name came from. My father's middle name is Miles, and his best friend, who financed the startup of our business in 1990, his middle name was Franklin. Although we bought him out a few months rather after he loaned us the money to start the company, we kept the name. We've been in business for 22.5 years, going on 23 years. And we're very proud of our reputation. And in this industry, reputation is so very, very important, really is, more than anything, because this is a non-regulated industry. And never before has that been so important, even with the half-lame regulators that we see regulating our industries right now, our financial industries. Nonetheless, there is no one to oversee what happens in the precious metals industry. So an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau over 23 years we feel is very significant. Not one complaint ever levied against us by any regulatory agency of any form, such as the Department of Commerce. And we're very, very proud of that reputation, and it should mean a lot to you as the investor when you're looking for a trustworthy source. As I mentioned, we have been in business for going on 23 years, and we have produced along the way information in the form of a newsletter from day one. Although it started out as a quarterly newsletter, over time morphed into a monthly newsletter and then a weekly newsletter. And here we are now with at least 2 newsletters every day, one from my father, David, in the morning, and one from Andy Hoffman in the afternoon. Certainly, we will keep you reading until your heart's content. We will educate you and navigate you through these uncharted waters best of our ability. We will rely upon our reputation and our track record and our information to help shine a beacon, if you will, or a light upon these dark and troubling times and getting scarier by the day. So with that being said, we certainly appreciate you listening and attending, and feel free to throw as many questions at us as you can. I'll turn it back to Andy.
Right, and before I leave this slide, because Andy can't see it, we will be speaking just briefly after I give a brief introduction about our bullion storage programs in Canada, Switzerland, and Hong Kong, as well as our Swiss annuity and managed account offerings. Because what we're doing at Miles Franklin, aside from differentiating ourselves on customer service and competitive pricing, is we now consider ourselves a protection provider. We're not just trying to be a boilerplate bullion company. We're trying to give people all the different options for protecting their wealth for what's coming in the coming years. And for, to each his own. Some people choose to do it one way and some choose to do another. And also you'll see on this slide at the bottom all of the prominent newsletter writers and analysts that support us fully and recommend us, like Doug Casey, Eric Sprott, Rick Rule, who I have to add to the slide, David Morgan, Vic Swear, and others. As for myself, I'm not sure how many people listening know me personally, but as you can see by this slide, I have the unique background of being a Wall Street person for 15 to 20 years. I'm from New York, have a CFA, worked at all the major firms, and you can see on the right side of that screen Many of those firms were bailed out or bankrupted, and that's part of the reason I left the business in 2005. I was a buy-side analyst, a sell-side analyst, a trader, and not a TRAITOR trader, but a stock trader. And I worked, my last job was as an oil field service analyst at Solomon Smith Barney. I did that for 7 years. So I have a unique perspective into Wall Street, how it works and how much I hate it. And as you could see on the bottom, I've spent now a full decade, fully invested in precious metals and talking and writing about the sector, helping people to protect themselves. I've done it for free for all this time. Just now joining Miles Franklin, it'll be a year in October, where for the first time I'm actually working with an organization that's selling physical precious metals. I also wanted to give a little background on Bill Holter, who is now an associate writer for Miles Franklin. He's been with us for about 2 months. I've known him for 7 or 8 years at least from the GATA website, that's called Antitrust Action Committee. Like myself, he's worked here 23 years. He worked on Wall Street, mostly as a stockbroker and a branch manager for major firms like A.G. Edwards. He, too, left the business because he didn't trust it anymore, particularly in a fiduciary responsibility as a branch manager. And he also became fully invested in precious metals, even moved temporarily out of the country, and like myself has become a crusader in shining the truth of what's really going on in the world. And now I'm going to hand it back to Andy. He's going to briefly discuss our storage programs and our Swiss annuity relationship with BFI.
Okay, well, I guess first is start with the relationship with BFI and the programs that we offer through BFI, and then lastly, I'll move on to Brinks Montreal. In 1990, we started Miles Franklin as primarily a company that offered Swiss annuities, and at the time, we really didn't do anything at all with gold. My father was the in-house economist for Investment Rarities at the time, probably the nation's largest precious metals company in the industry. For many years, he was the in-house economist and public spokesman, and while traveling in Zurich, met some gentlemen, Frank Seuss and Lou Parente, who wanted to bring Swiss annuities to the United States, and asked my father if he'd be interested in starting a company to do such. I think my dad was fortuitous in realizing that this was something that people would want, and it was the time for that product, and it started out fantastic. So our company and BFI Consulting started, literally, we were born together in 1990, and have worked closely on and off for the last 23 years, with just a brief period of off and mostly on. And they are some of the finest people I've ever known in 2 decades of finance. They are honest, they are trustworthy, they are reputable, they have a fantastic reputation, and they perform. Their products range from fixed and variable Swiss annuities, denominated in Swiss francs and other currencies, drafted off of 100-plus-year-old insurance companies in Zurich. And when you contrast the performance of the United States insurance industry with that of the Swiss insurance industry, it's like comparing the NFL to Pee Wee football, and the NFL being the Swiss, who in 150 years have never had an insurance company fail. And I don't know the exact number in the United States, but I would guess it's somewhere north of 20,000 insurance companies have failed in the last 20, 30 years. So it's a good number of insurance companies that have gone under in the United States, while none have ever failed in Canada. So it's something that, from a standpoint of reputation, of currency, of industry, it's as fine as it can be. They also, besides the fixed and variable Swiss annuities, offer managed accounts for larger clients with really fantastic track records, even going back to 2008 when everything was underperforming. They stayed above water. Fantastic company, good people, great currency, great industry. And lastly is their Global Gold program. And Global Gold is a form of physical ownership of gold held offshore, either in and/or silver, platinum, and palladium, held in Zurich or in Hong Kong. administered through Global Gold, which is a subsidiary of BFI, owned by BFI. If you're looking to get money offshore, larger denominations in Switzerland and or gold in Singapore, or excuse me, Hong Kong or Zurich, I have nothing but the highest of regards and esteem for these people, and would strongly recommend checking out their information. And I believe it's just BFI-consulting.com, but it would certainly behoove you and be in your best interest to let them know that you're working with us, as certain concessions are made, and certainly the customer service end of it emanates from us, rather than having to get up at 4 in the morning and call Zurich. Lastly is our storage program in Montreal, Brinks, Montreal, which we are very, very, very proud of. It's a year and a half in design and been running now since January. We have north of, I guess, $35–40 million in product stored there and growing by the day. It is a segregated account, as is most segregated accounts in the United States. You're looking at 0.75% for most segregated accounts in the United States or in this industry for precious metals. Ours is fixed in terms of gold at $1 per ounce per month, and quantity discounts do apply. So that's really very important when you talk about a segregated account. We are currently far less than the industry norm of 0.75%. At $1,600 gold, that would be $1.20 an ounce. We just signed a new 3-year contract guaranteeing at least or no more than $1 per ounce. And if you send a lot of gold up there, and we do, by the way, offer in-kind distributions, or excuse me, in-kind transfers, pardon me, in-kind transfers where you can send up metal you already own. And if you send up a good enough amount, over $100,000 worth of purchase from us, and have it delivered to Brinks, Montreal, we can lower that probably as low in some cases as 80 or 85 cents an ounce per month, fixed, guaranteed at least for the next 3 years, if not longer. Silver, on the other hand, is a little bit more costly. Percentage-wise, at least right now, it's fixed at 3.5 cents per ounce per month. That works up to 42 cents per year per ounce, and that is fixed. So as soon as silver gets above $40 an ounce, from that point forward, you are well ahead of what everyone else in the industry is charging. But more important than cost, I guess, is security, is reputation. Brinks is a company that was founded somewhere in the late 1850s, I think 1859, 1860, with a perfect track record. Brinks, Montreal, where this is stored, is the oldest Brinks facility in Canada. They've never had an attempted break-in. It is fully insured. Everything is fully insured by Lloyd's of London. It is, again, 100% segregated. It is, as far as I'm concerned, the best storage facility in the industry, and 100% feel comfortable recommending people put their assets there. We have assets of our own there. We continue to put our assets up there. And, you know, quite frankly, moving, if you compare Switzerland and Canada, you know, I could make the argument that Canada is actually taking on the role that Switzerland once maintained. When you look at what's happened with the Swiss banks giving, rolling over or kowtowing to U.S. and IRS interests, these are things that would have been unimaginable years ago, much to the same tune as they joining the United Nations, much to the same tune as Switzerland selling off a portion of their gold. These are things, or delinking it to the Constitution, these are things that would have been considered unimaginable for many, many years. And when you look at Canada, a country very liberal, with a very liberal attitude towards money and towards assets and towards gold, it's you know, to me, it was eye-opening to see the Royal Bank of Canada sell off all of their U.S. branches to a U.S. corporation because they didn't want to be subservient to U.S. regulations. So I think when you take a look at all of the storage options, Switzerland is good, Singapore or Hong Kong are good, but nothing compares, in my opinion, to this particular program all the way around: proximity, safety, reputation, cost, the whole 9 yards. So very, very, very proud of the Brinks Montreal program. And if you're interested, please call the 800 number, 822-8080. Ask for myself or Joel Kravitz, and either of us will certainly be able to assist you in setting up an account with Brinks Montreal. And if you're interested in any of the BFI consulting stuff, you can reach me directly at 800-255-1129 or Andy at Miles Franklin, and I will be happy to forward that information to you.
And
did I miss anything, Andy?
No, yeah, I wanted to just add two things about the Brinks program. For one, people should realize that this is an extremely, extremely small part of Brinks business. So for anyone wondering or worrying that Brinks is somehow on the radar screen, aside from being Canadian, and this is Brinks Canada we're dealing with, this is a brand new thing for them. So I don't even know that it's on anyone's radar screen that they even hold gold and silver of any kind. And second of all, more importantly, when I think of storage programs, because there's a lot of people that are worried about third parties holding on to any of their assets, and I don't blame them because I think the same. When I think of a lot of storage programs, I think of a piece of paper that says you own something. And that piece of paper really, in a lot of people's mind, is not much different than a stock certificate for GLD or a Perth Mint certificate that says, yeah, trust us, we have some gold down here in Australia that's in your name. But with our program, because it's so close and because we're so close with the principals of Brinks Canada, we go there every quarter. Andy and Joel take a trip every quarter to Montreal. I went with them the first time. We walk in the vault. We count every ounce of gold and silver that's there. We see the pallets that have your names on them. So for one, when you do this program, you're going to get an invoice from Brinks that says they've received your gold. It's opened under cameras and all that. And then you're going to get a regular invoice from us saying your segregated gold is there. And of course, the pricing is far superior than what most people are going to be able to offer, especially when gold and silver go up in price. And with that, I'm going to send it back to Laura.
Hold on one. Let me add one thing to that real quick, please. And I'm glad you brought a couple of those things up. Again, it is very, very relevant that this is a very small portion of Brinks' business. In fact, I don't know of any other Brinks Canada location that stores precious metals. That's very relevant. As well, as far as auditing is concerned, we are doing it 4 times per year, as Andy mentioned, the next one here next month. But as well, Brinks has asked us for a 5th independent audit, which will be online here this year. So you'll have 5 audits when the package is received in-house in Montreal. It is opened under camera. You do receive a statement of account directly from the vault manager. You do receive monthly statements from us and or quarterly audits with a 5th on the way. So very, very important, and really one of the biggest distinguishing factors between our storage program at Brinks and just about everyone else, aside from the cost, is the in-kind transfer. Most storage facilities outside the United States will not allow you to ship your own product there. Money laundering laws, I guess, prevail, especially in Switzerland. But in Brinks, Montreal, as long as it is packaged the right way and shipped up there the right way and it's the right product, 24 karat gold or 3/9 fine silver, you're good to go. If you send up Eagles or Krugerrands or junk silver or old silver dollars that are not 3/9 fine, the Eagles and the Krugerrands being 22 karat, then a value-added tax is imposed somewhere in the neighborhood of 15%. So as long as it's 24 karat gold or 3/9 fine silver, you can ship your own stuff up there. We'll do it for you. And so you don't even have to buy from us if you want to store it in Brinks, Montreal. So very relevant point. Pass it back to you, Laura.
Okay, thank you. We have a few questions here. I just want to remind all of our attendees that you can ask us questions using the question function in the GoToWebinar panel. And first question comes from Chuck in Michigan. We get this question a lot. The question is, do precious metals stored outside of the country need to be reported to the government either on a Form 1040 or on the FBAR?
I can answer that. First of all, no, on the 1040 it does not. Now this is a question that we have got a lot, and there are differing opinions. I have one attorney who tells me it is absolutely not reportable on FBAR. and or the Treasury Form 8930, I think it is, it's a new Treasury form, or a new IRS form, 89 something or another. Anyways, the IRS has a term that they call held direct, or directly held is basically the term, directly held. So if you have metal held in a safe deposit box in the bank out of the country, and you're the only one who has access to it, that is directly held. There is no reporting. If you own a house, say in Vancouver or Montreal or Toronto or anywhere for that matter, outside the border, and in that house you house metal, that is directly held. There is no reporting. So this particular attorney, it's their view that because this is held segregated, it is directly held, that there is nothing that Miles Franklin can do to that account. We can't touch it, we can't sell it, we can't move it. The only caveat, this coming from my other attorney, is that Brinks knows what's in that box because of the auditing. And so then the question becomes, is that directly held? Because someone else knows what's in it. So if I had to answer that question honestly, I would say no, there is no reporting involved. Am I willing to stake my future and reputation on it? No, because you're dealing with the IRS and the government, and their interpretation and their rules change. But let me say this. We have spent so much money and so much time trying to get clarification from the IRS as to what directly held means, as to is product stored in any offshore financial or offshore storage facility like Brinks or like Viamet, is that reportable? And they just won't tell us. And they basically came back last time and said, we've suspended all ruling on this issue. So while I truly believe that there isn't any reporting on this, I wouldn't take it to the bank. One last thing. I'm sure many of you have noticed the program that Casey Research and Agora just came out with. It's a program somewhat similar to our Brinks account. And the way that their program is designed is very similar to ours as well. They are publicly claiming that there is no FBAR reporting. And the premise that they use is that the company that is selling the gold is a U.S.-based company. And therefore, you didn't buy the gold offshore, you're not selling it offshore, and it's directly held. It's allocated. That is pretty much spot on for the way that ours is. So, you know, even if you transfer your own metal up there, you didn't buy it from a Canadian company. The Canadian company doesn't buy or sell. They're not a financial institution, which is a big key defining factor with the IRS. So everything would lead me to say to you in person, no, there is no reporting. But then again, you're dealing with the IRS. So all I can say is do your due diligence, reach out to an attorney or an accountant, get a letter, an opinion letter. We can offer those for you from this attorney. I don't know how much that really means when you're dealing with the IRS, but I'm sorry to be so wishy-washy. That's just the way the IRS has made it for us. We have made every effort to clarify this and certainly can prove that, but we're just not 100% positive as to what the right answer is, even though it looks as though there's not.
And of course, the decision to use a storage facility like this, reporting requirements should be secondary in your mind. Anyone who's actually considering doing this is thinking about the much bigger picture as to the risks of having gold and silver taken from your home or from your government in the country here. Laura, next question.
Sure. Thank you very much. The next question is, we actually have two people asking this. What's the minimum amount that you need to store in the storage account in Montreal to start an account there?
There really isn't so much a minimum amount, but we charge a minimum of $39 a month. So 1,000 ounces of silver would be fine. You could go less. 39 ounces of gold would be $39 a month. So, you know, 40 ounces of gold, you can go less. Just know that the minimum is $39 a month. We pay Quebec taxes, we have costs involved with Brinks, Montreal, mostly involved with insurance, and so when it comes to bottom line, it has to at least be $39 per month. So I don't care if someone wants to send 5 ounces of gold up there, it's still going to cost them $39 a month. So there really isn't a minimum, as long as that's understood.
Okay, thank you. Another question, kind of switching gears here. Someone is asking about being 100% in precious metals, basically wondering, you know, how much money should they keep liquid but out of the system, wondering they still need to pay their bills, essentially, is the question. How much money do they need to keep on hand versus, you know, keeping the rest all in metals?
Okay, well, the first question obviously gets to, do I want to diversify out of dollars? And once you've made that decision, it gets a lot easier. Precious metals, gold and silver, are money. They are as liquid or more liquid than dollars or euros pretty much anywhere on earth. But as you mentioned, in today's United States, it's not very easy to pay bills with gold and silver, so you have to have some available. Now, I can tell you what I do personally, which is to have pretty much, you know, not 100%, but 95% in real money. But you have to calculate what your daily bills are, your weekly, monthly bills, and also to have some kind of cushion in case you might need something in the near term. Now, again, this is only for people who want to have the maximum amount, because some people just like to have 50% of their wealth in precious metals. But if you do want to have a very high amount, it's really a matter of just figuring out what your bills are. And remember, gold and silver are extremely liquid. I mean, you could go to any coin dealer, you can send it to Miles Franklin and get money right back. So it's not like owning a house somewhere where you have to wait 6 months to sell it. But you know, you have to keep a certain amount to pay, and you also have to realize where you keep it as well. Banks, I mean, personally, I won't keep a cent in the banks. I have some money that I keep in Charles Schwab in a cash account, a brokerage account, not margin. I don't feel so comfortable with anything, but on a relative basis, they are not a levered company with debt, so I feel much more comfortable there. And of course, you can pay your bills through Schwab's system as well. Next question.
Yes, the next question is, if a person owns gold Krugerrands and Eagles and wants to store in the Brinks program, but also does not want to pay the Canadian VAT, what do you recommend doing? Is there a way around that?
Yes, what you would do is ship us your Krugerrands and your Eagles and trade them for maple leafs or kangaroos or 1-ounce gold bars. In the case of the Eagles, we would do that straight up. There might even be a little extra left over for a few silver coins to be shipped back to the person. With Krugerrands, it would be, you know, maybe at a cost of 1 or 2% in and out. A combination of Krugerrands and Eagles, we could probably swap them straight into maple leafs or kangaroos or 1-ounce bars at no cost and ship that up there, because the reason that is, in a nutshell, is that the first mint that made 1-ounce coins in the late 60s was the South African Mint, and that was the fad. Everyone who was buying gold then was buying it in the form of Krugerrands. The second mint to offer gold in 1-ounce form was the Royal Canadian Mint, which came online somewhere in the early 70s. And in an effort to spur growth for the Canadian Mint, they imposed a VAT import tax on anything that came in that was not 24-karat gold. So really, most modern coins are 24-karat. The only two really that aren't being the Krugerrand and the Eagle. The maple leaf is fine, the buffalo is fine, the Philharmonic is fine, the kangaroo, 1-ounce gold bars, anything else, the panda, anything else that's 24-karat is totally fine. And if you have other coins that you would like to store up there, all we really need to do is swap you into any of those coins at a minimal or no cost, and you're good to go.
Okay, thank you. Next question, how is gold delivered to the owner? If you're storing in Brinks, Canada, how can one take physical delivery of their metals?
We would have the metal either Brinksed, if it was a large enough amount, directly to the person. we would have it otherwise shipped back to our depository in Fargo, North Dakota, which also was a fantastic storage facility, by the way, the Dakota Depository in Fargo. If you don't want to leave the country and want to have stuff here, that's as good of an option as you'll find. Once we receive it, it's opened under camera and or just forwarded directly to the client. If they want to receive it, we'll forward it. If not, we'll open it under camera and sell it. So whatever you'd like, we're happy to do. But so we can ship it by UPS once it comes into the United States, or we can ship on large amounts right from Brinks to the client. And the only caveat is that Brinks will not deliver to a physical address. It would have to be to a bank or a business. So on large amounts, we could have Brinks deliver a truck right to a bank or a business, and if not, it would be sent to us and then UPS or FedEx from North Dakota.
So Andy, to be clear, can Brinks in a large enough amount actually ship it directly to a bank in the United States or only to a bank in Canada?
Both, either, or to a depository in the United States. So if you wanted to open up a bank in Montreal, you could go make arrangements to have it delivered there. You cannot get into the Brinks facility, no matter how much money you have. They won't allow clients in there. So you would have to open up a bank account at a bank in Canada, or if you wanted it shipped on large enough amounts. And the reason I say large enough amounts is that it's cost prohibitive unless it's a large enough amount. The cost of shipping it back by UPS to us and then from us to you, it costs less than it would be to have a Brinks truck drive from Canada to the United States. But on large amounts, it is beneficial to use Brinks. So yes, it could go to a bank or a business in the United States. That's not a problem at all. So the reason they don't ship directly from Brinks to the client is again, it's all insurance related. It has to come to us first. It has to be opened under camera, somewhat audited, I guess you'd say, and then sent from there to the person if it's coming by UPS or FedEx.
Okay. Next question, Laura.
Okay, thanks. Yeah, on that same wavelength there, someone is asking, what do you mean by a large enough amount to make sense to actually ship it using Brinks? Do you have kind of a ballpark number?
Because I'm in the middle of nowhere in Missouri, pulled over and I see nothing but farm fields, I'm not really sure. I would say, 7 figures, upper 6 figures. It wouldn't make sense to anything under $250,000 would not make sense. So if it was $1 million, yeah, I could see it making sense to have Brinks send it by Brinks truck rather than shipping it back by UPS. So it's got to be at least $500,000 or more, I would guess, off the top of my head.
Okay, thank you. All right, this question is for Andy Hoffman. If we are currently in manipulated markets, how will we ever know in the future if/when they're being manipulated or not? What does one look for?
Okay, well, the good news is, trust me, you will know, because this market has been so obvious for so long, particularly people who are reading my blog and seeing the monotonousness of what they're doing every day. I mean, and the same thing goes for the Dow. There's no volatility in the Dow because they prevent it and the opposite is with gold, where they make sure there's volatility, but only on the downside. I can guarantee you'll know when the manipulation is ending, because you'll see in chaos. I mean, it may be major chaos or maybe minor chaos, but it will be a situation where control is being lost. And it's not just going to be control of the gold market. Remember, this isn't about gold. This is about the system in general. And when one thing goes, many things will go at once. So you may see stock prices start to act differently. You'll see the media certainly act differently. You'll see fear in when you're speaking to people. And, of course, you'll see gold have big up moves as opposed to down moves. And you'll see the Dow have big down moves as opposed to up moves. The bad news is I don't know when that'll be, but I would certainly say that the odds of us being here a year from now and talking about when will this keep going on are very small in my opinion, because there's just too many things that are on the cusp of collapse at the moment. Next question.
Okay, this is more of a product question. Question about junk silver. Does Miles Franklin sell smaller bags, like more like $200 to $500 worth? And we do get that question asked a lot.
We will sell any amount within reason, and I say within reason. We really don't have a minimum order amount, and I learned long ago to not impose, much to the chagrin of some of our brokers, minimum orders. And it's one of the things that I think distinguishes us from the competition. We treat every client the same, whether they're big or small, and it I think took a little while for that to sink in, and we have a lot of examples where starting with the client with a very, very small order paid dividends in many, many ways. So as a result, we will accept any order that someone wants, as long as it's at least a few $100s. That's not a problem. I mean, we'd even sell a handful of Silver Eagles. So, but bear in mind this, that our shipping costs on small orders sometimes can be prohibitive. Although we are working on this, the way that it currently is whether you buy $300 worth or $35,999 worth, shipping is $36. Now, I have addressed this issue as recently as last week about smaller orders carrying a $36 shipping fee. So I would suspect that within the next week or two, we ought to be able to lower that, maybe half that amount. But the cost of shipping and the cost of packaging and the staff to do such, and you know, on small orders, it becomes cost prohibitive when, you know, on a typical order of that size of $200, the commission that would be made, you know, might be $5, $6. So it becomes cost prohibitive to not charge the actual price of shipping. Next question.
Oh, yes, thanks. Next question is about Swiss annuities. How popular is the option to choose Swiss annuities for risk aversion in today's markets versus metal storage?
Well, I think the Swiss annuity is not as well known as metal storage is. But if you were reading Gary North or Doug Casey or Richard Mayberry or any of the prominent newsletter writers in the 90s, when we started Miles Franklin, they all touted the merits of Swiss annuities. And so, you know, the Swiss insurance industry is 150 years old. It's never had a company fail. It's a country that's lived through 2 world wars, German hyperinflation, the Great Depression. They're still the finest currency in the world, even with all of their changes that really have somewhat changed the image of Switzerland over the last several years. It's still a fantastic product, and but I would say that in terms of popularity, it's not even close. I mean, Miles Franklin over the last 10 years has been a precious metals company primarily, and although we are very excited to promote and rekindle our relationship in Switzerland with BFI, the products are expensive. You have to spend at least $50,000 to buy Swiss annuities, and so they are also a little bit harder to understand than simply buying gold and storing it with Brinks. So while I 100% recommend the Swiss for risk aversion and for diversification within the primary trend, that being of a falling dollar, it isn't anywhere near as popular as the Brinks program or any of the gold storage programs that we offer.
And if I could add to that, there's a big difference in the mindset of these two products. We are offering, again, I wrote a piece called Miles Franklin Protection Provider, because we're giving people options of what to do. Swiss annuities, to me, aren't even in the same ballpark as actual gold and silver for so many different reasons, because Swiss annuities are paper products. They are administered by financial institutions. They do have currency risk. They do have commissions that are ongoing throughout time. So it's not that they are, I mean, put it this way. they are for people who want to protect themselves from the system but haven't yet convinced themselves that the actual problem is the money themselves, the money itself. A lot of these people, they really just fear the banks. They say, well, I want to save my money in fixed income investments, but I don't trust Citibank. I don't trust my local bank. I'm going to put it in a 150-year-old Swiss bank that's guaranteed by the government. Well, that's great, and the odds of a default on your assets in a Swiss program, whether it's a new or managed account, are extremely small. But that said, you still have all of the other paper risks, including currency risk, operational risk, market risk, and all the other things. So again, we're giving you options. Some people choose the paper option, but it's completely different ballpark from actual precious metals. Next question.
Yeah, well, very well said, Andy.
This next question is from Matt. With China buying huge quantities of physical gold, what do you think about the theory that they may be planning to take control of the gold price and offset the losing position they have with the U.S. Treasury bonds?
Right. Again, these things, these are not investments to them. Even to the Chinese, they are really not investing in Treasury bonds. They are simply holding their cash in whatever forms are available. For years, the only real form available was the Treasury bond because, well, for one, there was no real questions about the validity of the dollar, and also remember the yuan is pegged to the U.S. dollar. So as far as they were concerned, that was their form of holding money. They now realize, of course, that the dollar is going down and all the paper currencies are going down. So they're thinking in terms of, really, we just need to transfer, just like the people on this call. You want to take your dollars and put them in something that won't lose value. Well, they want to take their currency reserves and put them in something that won't lose value. And for all the bluster, the fact is they have no interest in going to euros, which are an even more inferior currency, or let alone some of the smaller ones. So they're just trying to diversify out of paper as well into physical assets. Now, as for big plans about the currency and all this, there's a lot of talk about that. To me, it's no more than conspiracies and the like. They're just like anyone else. They're desperate to get out of their paper and into something real. Now, the fact is they have more paper to spend than anyone else, so they're going to wind up with all the gold, as will the Russians and the Arabs and some of the wealthier nations. And as the old saying goes, he who has the gold makes the rules. So ultimately, once the system goes and there's no more gold left to buy, you'll look up and you'll see the Chinese will have the most, and the whole world will need a new currency system. And since they have the most gold, that currency will probably be somewhat based on the Chinese currency, backed by gold or silver. So I think in the meantime, again, I get questions all the time about what if and when will this happen, all this. It really doesn't matter. Right now, it's just a scramble to get out of paper. And once the system goes, which it will, then we'll figure out the next system. But I assure you in the next system, it won't be the United States that's running it. Next question.
This one has to do with IRAs. Can IRA funds be invested in precious metals and stored in Brinks, Canada?
It's very challenging to do. It can be done. It has to be done through a LLC. There's a company called Passport IRA I know of. Passport IRA offers an LLC type of platform where you pay $2,500 and they establish an LLC for you. The LLC owns the IRA, and the client then owns the LLC, or the investor owns the LLC. The problem isn't in setting that up, because that's relatively straightforward. The problem is in the idiocy of the U.S. government and the way that they make rules, in particular the IRS. There is a rule that says, well, first let me back up. Gold Eagles were made since 1986, and Gold Buffaloes since 2006. And the Buffaloes, to me, are the U.S.'s answer to the Canadian Maple Leaf. They were sick and tired of losing business to the Royal Canadian Mint, so they came out with a 24-karat coin, which is really no better or worth no more than the 22-karat Eagle, which, by the way, has a full ounce of gold in it, plus a tenth of an ounce of copper-silver alloy. So in any case, the rule that is on the books today says that if you hold gold in an IRA outside U.S. jurisdiction, it has to be gold eagles or silver eagles. Those are the only two that you could do through the passport IRA. So therefore, even if you would be holding U.S. gold buffaloes, the 24-karat coin, you would think you'd be okay, but in reality, you'd be in violation of that law. And so there isn't any gold other than the gold eagle, which has not been updated. And I have received opinion from counsel saying that that would be breaking the law to send gold buffaloes, even though it's been, even though it's made by the U.S. Mint. Your only choice is gold eagles and silver eagles, and then you're back to the VAT tax again. You could do silver eagles very easily, however, in an IRA. You go to passport IRA, you open up the LLC, and then purchase silver eagles, and that's a piece of cake. Gold, as of right now, you're going to pay a VAT tax to start up with.
And let me add something here. Again, we get questions all the time about IRAs, and frankly, I have as little interest in precious metal IRAs as I do in IRAs holding the stock of Bank of America. In my view, anything that's government-sponsored is something that they can take. In fact, I almost feel like if there ever was some kind of confiscation decree for IRAs or other pension plans, they almost would likely to be going after the things that you think you're protecting the most, like, oh, these smart alecks are holding their gold in IRAs, they think they can keep it from us. I think it will be quite obvious where the gold and silver are. For instance, the Delaware Depository in the United States is well known as housing tons and tons of IRA gold and silver. I think if there was ever a target with a big X on it, that would be it. So my recommendation personally is to cash out of your IRAs as quickly as you can, your 401ks when you leave your companies, your pension plans, your Roths, you name it, because the taxes are going to go up. These are pre-tax funds that are going to take away the benefit of the tax deferral. There are very few paper assets, which I can even imagine making any kind of return in the coming years. I mean, there's no interest rates to speak of. All the stocks and industrial assets are overpriced, and we're going into a recession. And of course, then you're risking that the government does something to make your IRA either illiquid or in some asset you don't want, or just take it. So again, IRAs to me, number one danger sign. I don't see the benefit of moving precious metals into IRAs. I just think it's got a big X on it. Next question,
and
Laura.
As a caveat to that, I did this going on it'll be 3 years ago. This month, I cashed out a very large IRA that I had built over 20 years of working, and paid a large penalty at 39 years old, and a very large tax bill. And I put all of those funds into physical gold and silver, and I've never looked back. So, my feelings are the same. If you have no choice but to keep an IRA, yes, you can do it. But if you can get out of the IRA, do it, because taxes will go higher. Shenanigans are bound to happen with IRAs. They certainly are a target, and if you can get out, do it. It's not for everybody, but if you have the ability to cash out your IRA and not lose sleep at night, I would do it immediately as well.
And for the record, I too am 41, and 2 years ago at 39, I did the exact same thing, and it was the best money I ever spent. Next question, please.
Yes. Next question is, I'm nearly 100% invested in gold mines, seniors and juniors, and thinking about cashing out some positions to invest in bullion. What do you see as the pros and cons of such a move? I'm still working on a plan to do so in my 70s or later, and this person is in their late 60s.
Andy,
Okay.
calm down. Calm down, Andy.
Okay. Well, people listening who know me realize that until 3 years ago, I spent basically 2002 through 2008 100% invested in mining stocks, my entire net worth. Starting in 2008, when the global crash started, I started easing into bullion. I think by a year or two ago, I was up to 30% bullion, and then last summer, I had enough. I sold every share I had of every kind, senior, junior, and I went 100% bullion, never to look back. I also, as a 20-year stock analyst, became one of the experts, and still am today, in valuation of miners. And I spent 5 years before coming to Miles Franklin as the head of investor relations, or investor relations consultant, for literally dozens of companies. I don't think you're going to find someone outside of Rick Rule or Eric Sprott who knows more about junior mining companies than myself. And my view on the sector is it is cursed. I believe it is manipulated. I believe there are nothing but risks ahead of it in so many different ways. Even if you're lucky enough that the sector actually goes up materially, which certainly could happen with the gold cartel getting broken, I think you're going to run immediately into a whole new set of risks, which are much worse than what we've dealt with today. I think ultimately the mining shares will be destroyed, if not by the brokerage firms themselves going bankrupt, or title issues with the mine, or operational issues that kill the mine. It's going to be windfall taxes or nationalizations. These are not investments. This is real money, and you've already seen plenty of nationalizations and issues of the like just in the last year or two, and you will see more. What I try to emphasize when I talk about mining shares, forget the upside, okay? This is not offensive. This is not like 1999 buying internet stocks, okay? We're in a world where everything is falling apart in value right now. Some things more subtly, some things more obviously. And because the government is in, say, supporting the Dow Jones propaganda average every day, and the Fed is printing money and buying treasury bonds, it may seem like certain assets are hanging in there. But the fact is, almost all stock markets have been destroyed. Almost all bond markets have been destroyed. And pretty soon, once these manipulations end, you're going to see the rest of them go down too. Your goal is to protect yourself. You are not necessarily protecting yourself with mining shares. You are definitely protecting yourself with physical metal. Next question, please.
Yes, looks like we have time for about one more question here, and I'll end with one that we get quite often here. Is it likely to be more advantageous to hold all gold, all silver, or a mix? What percentage do you recommend?
Right, and there's no universal answer to this question. Look, you need to diversify in whatever you do. You certainly need to have some gold, some silver, and for some people a tiny bit of platinum, although I don't have as much interest in platinum because it doesn't have the monetary history. Certainly it should do better than just about anything else in a currency crash, but I'm focused more on gold and silver. Now, some people will give actual reasons why you need to own gold and silver. For instance, well, what if they make a confiscation decree for gold? They wouldn't do that for silver. Well, yes, that is a possibility, and if you have silver and there's some kind of confiscation which would make it more difficult to use gold, then it's good to have silver. Frankly, I don't believe a confiscation is in the cards, and if it is, it's going to be when the system has already crashed, at which point I'll take my chances with the contraband or tax or banned gold and have dollars which are worthless, and I'd be bankrupt. But as for a mix, look, I'd say to anyone, half and half is fine. Personally, I have 2/3 gold and 1/3 silver, although a year ago when silver at $50, it was more silver than gold. So that number is going to change in time because I believe the gold-silver ratio is going to dramatically decline. Everyone needs to have some gold to preserve their net worth. Everyone needs to have some silver for those reasons, and also because we may need to barter at some point in the future. Silver, at the moment at least, is a far cheaper metal. It's easier to barter. Everyone should have some junk metal because it's the smallest denomination. It's the most likely thing you'd be using to buy a loaf of bread in the future if we ever got to that scenario. It also, again, I am 100% confident that the gold-silver ratio will go down in time, but I don't know how long that will be. And especially for people who are new to the sector, new buyers, even if it's physical gold and silver, which you have no intention of selling, you may be a little unnerved by the volatility in silver. It's far smaller market. It's far more manipulated, and as a result, it makes people nervous. It shouldn't if you have physical and not paper, but I know it does. So I would say for anyone, there's no real rule. Everyone should have a little junk silver, and if you start out at a half and half as your starting point, that's fine. You can always adjust for personal preference. And that would
Thank you very much. I think that's about all the time that we have for questions here. Any others we can certainly post at blog.milesfranklin.com with the answers. Do either of you have any closing comments for our listeners out there?
Well, I'll speak. Go on, Andy.
Go ahead, Andy. No, go ahead.
Okay, well, I was going to say, again, we do these webinars to answer questions, but that's also my job and Andy's job and the rest of our brokers here. We're here to educate you, and we're here to answer any of your questions at any time. So please feel free to call us at the phone number on the screen there, at our emails. Mine is ahoffman@milesfranklin.com. Andy is aschectman@milesfranklin.com, and all the other contact information for our brokers who, on average, have 18 years of experience are all on our website. If you have anything else you need, any other questions tonight, please send them, and we'll send a response by email promptly.
And that's very, very important to us. What differentiates us, amongst other things, is our accessibility and the fact that we're here to earn your business first by answering your questions and making you feel right about what you're doing. So feel free to call anytime with any question with no obligation. And if we earn your business, then we did our job the right way to begin with. So thanks again for participating, and until next time, take care.
Thank you all for listening in.